information session. My name is Ashley Salih, and I am the advisor for CELTA here on UT campus. I've been advising for a year, and I've been involved with the program for longer than that. I actually even took the CELTA last October, our CELTA. So I can dive deep into the details of the daily activities and routine and everything if you're interested in that. But we'll start with an overview and then kind of get a little bit more detailed as we go. So the first thing, kind of a preview of what we'll talk about today. Why teach abroad, pre-departure, finding a job, concerns, the UT CELTA program. That's where I can give you a lot more detail on our activities, and questions that you have that you came here today with. I'm happy to answer those. So why teach abroad, right? That's often the question. That's the end goal with the CELTA. You can use the CELTA. Often we get the question of, can you use the CELTA to teach here in the US? And that is possible. You can use it here to teach in the US, often with refugees or with another group. Hi, welcome. But for your intensive English programs, you're going to need to get a few years of experience teaching outside of the US. So especially for teaching at UT in our ESL services program, you need 5 years of teaching experience before you can be considered to teach in our program. But why teach abroad? You travel while earning money. That's a big draw for many people. We have many teachers who started out that way in our program, traveling to Spain, China, Korea, Japan, Brazil. We have teachers who did all of that and loved every minute of it. Traveling while you're earning money is a lot more fun than traveling when you don't have any money. You get to learn a language often. So if that's something that interests you, that's a great opportunity. Another benefit of traveling and teaching at the same time. You can gain work and or international experience. Obviously, if you're earning money, you're gaining work experience. But gaining international experience in this international economy, it is often very helpful to have international experience. I know working in our international office, pretty much all of the jobs require at least some knowledge of another country or having spent some time in another country. And businesses are getting that way too. They like to see a little bit more international experience on a resume. You can earn money for student loans at some locations. So often with Fulbright or with some other programs like Fulbright, you can earn money for student loans. The CELTA will help you with the Fulbright. So Fulbright does have a small teaching component. They teach you how to teach in the classroom, but it's very small, it's short. And so you would benefit from, if you're a person who likes to plan and likes to have something to support you while you're in country and in a new experience, then having the CELTA before doing a program like Fulbright would actually be very helpful because you would already have some building blocks to stand on, some foundation to stand on. And then you find a job more easily than in the US. Often you can walk in to you can arrive in country, walk into a business, say, hi, I'm a native English speaker. I have a CELTA certificate. Do you have any work? And they can offer you a job. That happens. We've had alum from our CELTA program do that and be successful in that way. So also finding a job more easily than in the US. The CELTA is the most highly rated and accepted certificate abroad. So you may have heard of TOEFL or the TESOL certificate. These certificates are not as regulated. So the CELTA certificate is much more regulated and assessed. Every month it is assessed by an outside person who comes in and reviews what the tutors are doing, how the trainees are doing in the class, if all the curriculum that is promised to be covered is being covered, all of these things. So CELTA sends an assessor to every class, every program, every session. Any questions about why teach abroad before we move on to pre-departure? All right. If at any time you have questions, please raise your hand and I'll be happy to answer them. So pre-departure, you decide where you want to go. You read and study travel, language, history, culture books like you would with any other travel that you probably would do. Or you don't do any of this and you just dive in like some people like to do. Research expat community. Expat communities will be really helpful while you're abroad. An expatriate community is a group of people from the US who are in country and working, living, doing the things that you would be doing in that country. And often they meet at different locations, a bar, a restaurant, something like that. And you can find those communities on the web and kind of join in with them, kind of like an organization here on campus, like a student org, or if you do meetup or something like that, it's kind of like that. Research insurance options, because while you're abroad, you might need different insurance than you need while you're here, or your insurance that you have while you're here may not cover you abroad. Not all of the job opportunities while you are abroad offer you insurance, so you will definitely want to ask them about that. And gather possible teaching supplies and credentials. So with this one, you'll definitely get some ideas about what kind of supplies and credentials you would need through taking the CELTA course. But Google is a vast and wonderful search engine that will be very helpful in finding other supplementary materials and even help you find materials in country. Any questions about pre-departure? So finding a job. You can find a job by looking online. Look for reviews of schools. And you want to try to talk to more than one foreigner who works there, because each individual may have a different experience within that department, within that business. Meaning that schedules can vary from working on weekends, working nights, daytime work, tutoring, kind of different schedules. There are many different ways that you can have a schedule in another country for teaching English. So sometimes you're teaching professionals who are working during the day and need the instruction at night. Sometimes if you're focused on kids, that would be more of a teaching during the day situation. In country, travel to that country and bring resumes. Like I said, you can walk in the door of an intensive English program and say, "Hi, I'm a native speaker. I have a CELTA certificate. I was wondering if you had any job openings." And because you're a native speaker and because you have the CELTA certificate, they will look at you with a big smile on their face and go, "We just might have something for you." Government-sponsored programs, Peace Corps, I mentioned Fulbright, the JET program, EPIC. These are all programs that you may want to take a look at if they're a good starting place. We also have on our website a good job resources. So there's a link called Dave's ESL Cafe that has a lot of, I see some heads shaking. Yeah, there are a lot of really good resources on that webpage. NAFSA, NAFSA, also has a lot of good resources for finding jobs teaching abroad. And CELTA certification. So this is required by many schools for employment. That's why you're here today, to learn more about that certificate. So that's very helpful. Again, it's widely recognized as the best certificate that you can have for teaching English.
CELTA assist you finding jobs after the program, or is it kind of just let loose?
That's a great question. In your 4th week of the program, you do have a focus on job search, on job searching. So while we do not place you in a job, the tutors do review your resume. They offer to review your resume and give you feedback on that. They give you a list of questions to ask potential employers and potential employee or potential colleagues so that you can be the most informed when making a decision about where to work. That last week, they also go over a few different scenarios of different working environments. So while we don't place you in a job, we do offer some preparation for that. Yeah. And if you have a specific country that you're interested in, the tutors have a lot of information about where people have gone in the past, and then also we have a Facebook alumni page that you can, once you've finished the CELTA, we add you to our Facebook alumni page, and then through that you can contact other alumni and find out where they're teaching and talk to them about their experiences. Great question, thank you. So concerns, visa and legal issues might be on your mind. Fitting into the culture, speaking the language, getting paid, security, doctors and medicine. These are all things that you would want to look into prior to traveling, because they'll be different in each country, obviously. Depending on the country you go to, depending on how long you're going to stay there. 60 days, pretty much in a lot of countries, you don't need a visa for, but in some you do. So you would want to check that government regulation out before traveling. So what is CELTA, right? You probably know a little bit about what it is because you're here today. But it's the Certificate in Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. It is overseen by Cambridge University. It's standardized. What I mean is that there are assessors coming to every session and reviewing the program, making sure that it's up to standard. That is another reason why it is the best certificate you can have for teaching English. Most widely recognized certificate of English language teaching in the world, and many institutions require their instructors to have this certificate. Again, that's mostly abroad. That's not here in the US. So to dive a little deeper into the details, it's a 120-hour course with 6 hours of supervised teaching practice, 4 weeks. So what that supervised teaching practice breaks down to is pretty much every other night you're teaching about a 40-minute lesson. Provides practical hands-on teaching experience, teaches the principles of effective language instruction, and provides students with a range of practical skills that can be employed in various teaching situations. I agree with every one of these after taking the class. The hands-on experience, you're teaching people from the community here in Austin. So they are people who are refugees. They are spouses of UT students. They are people here on tourist visas who found out about our free ESL classes and just wanted to join in. They're lovely individuals. They just want to learn. They're excited to be there in the class with you, and they know that you're a teacher in training. So they recognize that they're getting this class for free because you are training to be a teacher. You're not certified yet. Yes, sir.
And for those classes, will instruction primarily take place in English, or would you also be expected to speak in their language as well?
All in English, yeah. So that leads me to another point, is that the students are either in the low intermediate to high intermediate range. So you're not teaching beginners and you're not teaching advanced students. These students are right in the sweet spot of needing a little bit more instruction and being interested in the instruction, right? Sometimes with advanced learners, you may get a little bit of that lack of interest in class. And with beginners, it sometimes is very hard to reach them in a second language, right? So that's why Cambridge asks that the teaching practice students are in an intermediate range. And for 2 weeks, you will teach one class, the low intermediate or high intermediate, and for the second 2 weeks, you would switch. So often there are 12 students in a class. The first 2 weeks, 6 of you are teaching the low intermediate, 6 of you are teaching the high intermediate, and then halfway through, you switch. And the 6 who were teaching the low intermediate are teaching high now, and the 6 who are teaching high are now teaching low. So that you get both experiences, yes.
And then I was also wondering, how does the process of evaluation work insofar as your mentor or your supervisor will provide criticism to your teaching, and how you develop a lesson plan?
Sure, that's a great question. So we have course tutors. That would be your supervisor or mentor. So 2 tutors per session. And our tutors have been working with us for a long time. I mean, one of them has been working with us since the start of our offering the program here on campus, and that was in 2012. And then the second tutor has been working with us for the past 1.5 years, maybe 2 years at this point. So the second one is from London, and so he has that connection to Cambridge and everything there, and he's traveled around and assessed other CELTA programs as well, so he has a very solid understanding of what our program offers and what others offer. And then our in-house tutor has been, with us, much longer than that, and is very well grounded in the subject matter. You also asked about feedback. So feedback happens at the end of the day. A typical schedule is noon is when you arrive in class. So from noon to 1:30, you're going to be in an input, what's called an input session. The tutors, one of the tutors is leading a class, basically. They are teaching you the material you need to be taught. And so that's for 1.5 hours, and then you have a 15-minute break. And then the other tutor comes in, teaches you another lesson. And often they are modeling how they want you to teach in the class later on. So you're getting that kind of meta moment in the classroom. Then at 3 o'clock, you have guided lesson planning, and that is where 6 of you are assigned to one tutor each, so 6 to one tutor, 6 to the other tutor. And I'm doing this because you often meet at the front of the classroom. So one tutor will have a chair here and a chair next to him for you to sit in and talk for 10 minutes, and then the other tutor will sit next to them and have another chair, and through that, you'll have 10 minutes with the tutor to discuss the lesson plan. you'll be given a book, you'll be given the page numbers, you'll be given the exercises that you're going to teach. Okay, so from that, and from day one, you're given the lesson frameworks. And so you have an idea of what needs to be included. The framework tells you the different parts of the lesson, so how to structure your lesson. And then you fill in with the different exercises, and you show that framework and how you plan to present it to the class, to the tutor, and they give you suggestions on, well, on timing maybe, or on what maybe the order of things. They'll even map out the lesson on the whiteboard with you, and kind of, if you're at square one and you're not quite sure how to start, they'll just go, okay, let's do it together, and they'll map it out with you. Very supportive in that way. And you get 10 minutes, and then it's on to the next person, but in 10 minutes you get what you need, and then the next day, if you still have questions after, that's the day that you will be teaching. So the next day you would have some time, potentially, if the tutors get through all of their trainees that are teaching the following day, not that night, but the following day, then you get to come in and ask final questions if you have them at the end of that session. So from 3 to 3:45, that's when the guided lesson planning is happening. And then from 3:45 until 5, you have personal time. So if you need to or want to get a coffee, get a meal, go take a walk, make some copies for your lesson that evening, make some copies for your lesson the next day, you have that time available to you. And then from 5 to 7, you're in the classroom teaching or observing. So you teach about a 40-minute lesson, and each of you kind of in a setting like this, right, gets up in front of the class, does your lesson, and the next person rotates in, puts their name on the board, and proceeds with their lesson. Third person puts their name on the board, proceeds with their lesson. So it's pretty quick. Transitions, need to be pretty smooth, but it all flows and works, and that's not a problem. And if one of the trainees goes a little bit long, then the tutor doesn't start timing your lesson until you start, because obviously the other trainer had a little bit of a longer lesson. But you're all very aware of the time. The other trainees in my class would put up their hands, to let you know you've got 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So it was very helpful that way. And you get to bond with your class. I am getting to feedback, by the way. I apologize. I realize that I've gone off on a tangent, but yes, feedback is coming. So from 7 to 8 is feedback time. And during feedback, your fellow trainees are giving you feedback on how you taught the lesson, and it's open. It's in a form like this. Maybe 3 of us would go off to this side, 3 of us would go off to that side, and then you just get comments from your fellow trainees about how the lesson went, positive and potential for improvement comments. The tutors do go over kind of how to frame those comments so that, you're not just telling someone that, well, that was a really poor lesson, I don't know why you taught that. No, that's not what you're going to say. You're going to have much more constructive feedback. And then after you have that time, the tutor is listening in while you are doing that, and then everybody comes together, and the tutor gives feedback to you with the rest of the class hearing that feedback, so that everyone benefits from it. And it's a little awkward at first, I will admit. You feel a little bit like the spotlight's right on you, but once it happens every night for a week, then you've got 3 more weeks of that and it becomes routine. So that's where the feedback comes in. Additionally, for feedback, right after you teach your lesson, you fill out what's called a hot feedback form, kind of your reactions to your lesson. And then the next day in class, well, before class, you fill out a cold feedback form, which is just the other side of that form. The cold feedback form is based on the feedback you received from your peers and from the tutor and your own reflections. So you get a lot of reflective work while you are taking the class, which is really helpful because you see what you need to improve on and then you act on it the next class you teach, and you continue to do that throughout the class. Let's see. Any questions about the schedule? Yes.
So overall, it's 4 weeks, or is that just this supervised teaching part?
You're right, it's 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks to get your certificate. Yeah, for everything. I know, it's a lot. It is intense.
I'm sure, I don't know anything about CELTA. Is this only an option if you're like a UT student?
No, it's open to everyone. In my class, we had someone who was not changing careers, they were retired from IBM, and software engineer from IBM, and he was changing careers, and he wanted to do this as a potential, next step, something to travel and make some money, So his wife was from Korea, and so they were thinking they might go back to Korea, he could teach, things like that. Another couple students or trainees were from all over Texas, really. I mean, we took it in October, so often in the summer months there are more UT students who tend to take it, or college-age students. But actually this May we have at least 3, people taking the course who are not of college age. So really, it's open to the public. Anybody can do it at any time, which is really interesting and fun.
So you don't have to have your degree yet?
You don't have to have your degree, no, but
Certification.
to get the certification, we do recommend that you be a junior or senior in college before you apply to do the certificate. But beyond that, come anytime and take the CELTA course, and you will learn and have a good time. Let's see. So we went over typical daily schedule. Yep, that's exactly what I said. So input sessions. During those input sessions, the topics studied do include learners and teachers and the teaching and learning context, language analysis, language awareness. So the language skills, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, those are what your frameworks come from. So the different frameworks that you end up teaching relate back to if you're teaching a reading lesson, a writing lesson, a listening lesson, or a speaking lesson. Planning and resources for different teaching contexts. These are what I was talking about if you're teaching younger age students, or if your students are employed and need training after work or on weekends. And then developing teaching skills and professionalism. That's the professionalism kind of comes at the end in that last week, what I was talking about with your resume and job searching and all of that, and the questions that you ask different potential employers and different potential colleagues. Any questions about the topics studied? Ooh, one thing that the group that I took the class with, and I've heard many questions about for other sessions, is are you taught grammar? in the CELTA course. And no, you are not taught grammar. You are taught how to teach, but you are not taught content, if that makes sense. So you're really taught the frameworks, and the focus is on the frameworks and how to teach those frameworks so that you can apply those frameworks to future lessons that you will teach. That's a very important difference. You're not taught what a present perfect, verb tense is. You're not taught what a, modal is, but you are taught frameworks for teaching these different language skills. All right. So teaching practice, you get guided lesson planning with the trainers. 6 hours of supervised teaching practice with at least 2 different class levels, like we talked about, and approximately 35 hours of teaching observation. So you will observe your CELTA classmates, and then you get to observe our ESL instructors. So there are 2 classes, one 9 to 10:30 class and one 11 to 12:30 class in the second week on the Friday usually, that you get to observe our ESL teachers in action with our students who are here from all over. So that's often a highlight of the class. I think you get hands-on experience observing someone who has been doing this for a long time and is excited to have you in their classroom and share what they're doing with you. And then feedback from CELTA trainers and classmates, we talked about that. That's the 7 to 8 time period daily where you're receiving that. So our students, like I said, the ones that come for the teaching practice are from all over. I think I didn't mention Caritas, but that's another group that often sends their international population to us to get to take a test for placement into our classes. Some of our UT ESL students want extra practice, so they're already paying for classes with us, but then they opt to come to the free classes too. And if they're in the low intermediate to high intermediate range, then we invite them to come and participate. So assessment. Answering more of your question, again, there are no exams or tests throughout the course. You're assessed on your ongoing performance as a teacher, so the feedback that your tutor gives you, they'll send you a form after they've verbally given you the feedback. They'll send you a feedback form that gives you all of the information that they verbally told you, and then you use that to help you fill out your cold feedback form. And they give you a kind of a rating of passed or not passed. I mean, that doesn't happen often. So often you pass, and then the grading system goes to pass A and pass B. So these 2 differentials are kind of show you. Basically, you have a line where this is not passing, this is passing, then you have like pass B and pass A. So there's a wide range of passing, and then the pass B and pass A are up at the top. Kind of like, I hesitate to say that this is an A in the class, this is a B in the class, and passing is a C in the class, because that's not really accurate. A pass A is that you did everything you were supposed to do. You did all the frameworks completely from, start to finish. You did them in the right amount of time. You did the sequence within the frameworks correctly, as in you had your students think about what they were going to respond, talk in pairs about how they would respond, then have open class feedback about how they would respond. So there are a lot of little details that you have to get right to get this pass A. Your assignments, your written assignments, these fold into that too. These happen on the weekends. You spend about 8 hours on each assignment. Classroom skills, English language system, language skills, and adult ESL learners. So the adult ESL learners, you take one of the students you're teaching and you ask them if they would be okay with you writing a paper on them. And so if they agree, then you record an interview with them so that you can listen to their voice playback to understand their pronunciation and everything. You ask them to write 100 words. Be careful about how you ask that though, because one of our trainees got a list of 100 words written on a piece of paper, whereas what we had intended for the trainee to do is to write, some sentences, about 100 words worth of, paragraph maybe, something more along those lines. And then you take resources that we have in the CELTA resources. We have a library of CELTA resources, and which is a bookshelf. I don't want to say that it's a whole room of resources, but a very well put together bookshelf. And you take those resources and kind of find out, okay, my student is from Brazil, and Brazilians typically have these challenges with learning English as a second language. Okay, which of these challenges that stereotypically Brazilians have does my student exhibit, right? Or what are they showing to have challenges in learning this second language? And then you write a report on how you would help them with those challenges that they are having. And of course, this is after you've already been taught how to help students with these challenges. So it's not like you don't have the prep work beforehand for that. And with each of these assignments, there's a template provided. So you do have something to start with and then to fill in. Let's see. Language skills is typically the reading, grammar, listening, writing. That's what that one focuses on. So you'll focus on one of those skills. English language system, you focus on you do a vocab sheet and a grammar sheet, which they provide templates for. You kind of dive deep into how to teach a vocabulary word or words. And then for grammar, you dive deeper into how to teach certain grammar point that they provide for you, and then you research and write, just fill in the template that they have for you. Yeah, any questions about this? Yes, sir.
In terms of the employer's perspective, would they care at all if you have Pass A or Pass B? Or are those distinctions just specific to the CELTA program in itself and it doesn't have any consequences outside of the program?
So any passing the certificate is great. You have the certificate. Employers will love that you have the certificate. Pass B and Pass A just tells them that you extra know the knowledge. That's all. Yeah. That you are super on top of it. But having the certificate itself is what they want to see on your resume. All right. UT CELTA program versus other CELTA centers. So here, of course, you're a member of a large world-renowned university. You get free Austin public transportation because you get an ID. This ID gets you on any bus for free. UT libraries and gyms are open to you, and UT facilities and classrooms. So with the gym, there is still a fee to attend the gyms here on campus, but they're here, so they're an amenity. Unlimited printing resources, so we do have a printer that is dedicated for your use while you're in the program. And then UT Teacher Training Certificate, so we give you a certificate that acknowledges that you've completed the course at UT. And then ESL students from all over the world are your students that you get to teach. So you don't have, necessarily one language, native language background in your class. You have people from all over. And then other CELTA centers are independent centers that are unaffiliated with a larger institution, so you wouldn't necessarily have access to all of these things that you would here at UT. Limits to student printing and other resources. We have we have all the different colors of paper. We have all the staples and the paper clips and the binder clips, and you basically walk into Office Depot when you are with us. So you have expo markers and chalk and whatever you need in order to teach, it's available to you. Except for a computer. You would need to bring your own computer if you want to use a computer during the session. Application process. So I know each one of you wants to fill out an application tonight, right? You're bought in, you're excited, you're ready to go. If you're not, we'll just preview the application process so that you'll know what to do when you do feel that way. So it asks for personal information. There's some short answer questions and an essay and some essay questions. All of these are just so that the tutors get to know you a little bit better. Then there's the pre-interview task, which has an English grammar and English pronunciation component to it. All of this is included in the document. That's when you click apply, it's in that same document. So with the pre-interview task, Google is your friend. We do have some recommended resources at the very top of the preview interview task. I highly recommend you use those when you do the task. And I highly recommend that you take some time with this task and don't just rush through it, because it does inform the tutors of what you know or how resourceful you were in finding what you needed to know for the pre-interview task and applying it there. Okay, so that is very telling for our tutors. And then the interview. So once you complete this and hand it in through either coming to our office and submitting it in paper form, mailing it, snail mail through UPS or USPS, or through emailing it to our CELTA email address, then we process that and let the tutors know that we've got another application, and they contact you to set up an interview. If you are not in Austin at the time that you were contacted for an interview, you can do it by Skype. So that is an option. You don't have to be here in Austin to complete your interview. The interview is about 30 minutes. It's not long. They go over the application with you, basically. So you're not really asked questions that do not pertain to the application. Except for they may ask you some questions like pertaining to how you might teach something. So, for instance, one of my questions was, how would you draw a timeline? If you were to draw a timeline on the board, how would you draw a timeline? Timeline. How would you describe a bumblebee? These are the types of questions that might be outside of the application, but not outside your realm of being able to answer them. Okay. So upcoming UT CELTA courses are the ones right here. We've got May right around the corner. One ends tomorrow, so yay, another group. June through July, no class on July 4th, obviously, holiday. July 23rd through August 17th, and October 1st through the 26th. This summer we'll be posting our sessions for 2019. So and November to December, that one right there, snuck by. So obviously there would be no classes November 21st through 23rd for Thanksgiving. But, and then this little gem. If you pay 45 days in advance of the session that you want to attend, there is a $300 discount. So that's worth noting because right now tuition's $2,595 with a $300 deposit that does get included into that $2,595. So meaning it applies to your tuition. But if you apply 45 days in advance, then you get a $300 discount.
On that note, are
Yes.
there any opportunities for scholarships or financial aid?
Not currently. So because it's not a credit-bearing course, then we don't qualify for financial aid. Apart from that, people may be finding funds elsewhere that I'm unaware of, but it's worth looking around to see if there are some opportunities there. We just haven't been made aware of any that are available at the moment. Yeah. Good question. Any more questions that y'all have that I can help answer? Yes, sir.
So just to clarify a point that you made earlier in the presentation, around week 4
Yes.
of the program,
Yes.
that time when you're ending,
Mm-hmm.
more or less, you mentioned how students would be able to gain some sort of information about the potential job market. Could you be a little bit more clear as to what exactly that means insofar as, for example, like learning about a particular country's job market and things of that nature?
Oh, yes, certainly. Great question. So what I mean is providing you with the resources that you can use to find jobs. So they don't necessarily dive into specific countries and what that job market looks like in that country, but they do either bring you back to the CELTA job resources page to kind of show you those resources that are there. They preview the Facebook alumni page, kind of letting you know that it's out there and that it's a great resource for you. They, again, you get the feedback from them on your resume if you choose to do that, and the questions which are incredibly helpful. I mean, there are things on there that you wouldn't necessarily think to ask potential employers or potential colleagues, but that really highlight the differences in the different job opportunities that are out there. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
One thing I've found conflicting stuff online, because I know the A in CELTA is for adults, and I'm wondering if the training prepares you to work with people of all ages, or if it's more geared towards adults.
So in that professional week, kind of the final week, they do go over different teaching settings. So online, younger students, meaning K through 12. There's even an input session on teenagers, teaching teenagers. But in the class itself, you are teaching adults. The TP classes, the teaching practice classes that you teach are all 18 and up. They're adults. Sometimes a 17-year-old will be in there, but that's often because they're visiting.
So do you know if prospective employers abroad would look at CELTA as a qualification to teach adults exclusively?
Not exclusively. They will look at it as a qualification to teach English. To teach English. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
What is the job market like here in the US for people with this certificate?
So for people with this certificate in the US, I would say that you're more likely to get a tutoring opportunity or to get an opportunity at maybe a local church or a refugee group with a refugee group or something like that. But as far as the intensive English programs, they are looking for more experience in teaching English prior to, or a degree. Often master's degrees are required for teaching at an intensive English program. So while people have gotten the CELTA, the IBM fellow that I was talking about, he actually got a job teaching business English at one of the English English intensive programs down the street. So you may not be aware of this, but on 24th Street, there are about 4 intensive English programs. There's the ESL services, TIEP, Texas Intensive English Program, HOFT, House of Tutors, and Assisted Language Learning, I believe. They're new, so, but they, yeah, all along 24th Street, they're there. So he got a position with one of them teaching business English. So it's possible to get jobs, yeah. Other questions? Yeah, so through the Facebook page, yeah, I actually reached out. We had an interested trainee. He wanted to teach in Spain. I said, well, let me reach out to our Facebook group, see if anybody's in Spain who I could connect you with and you could talk to. And that's, you know, I connected them and they went off and talked about opportunities. So, yeah, I mean, not as often as we would hope, but that's probably because they're out there doing it, you know? Yeah, and enjoying it, so.
Is it fairly competitive to get accepted into
the CELTA program?
Yeah, like once you get the interview, with,
Right.
like, do they turn a lot of people away, or?
I mean, no, they don't turn a lot of people away, no. From that application and the pre-interview task and then the interview, basically they know from that whether or not they're going to accept you, and you are informed after the interview whether or not you have been accepted. Reasons that people have been turned away is because their English is not high enough. So we'll get international students who want to take the CELTA, or second language learners who want to take the CELTA, and if their IELTS score is not at a certain level, for the moment I'm forgetting what that number is exactly, but they have to have a certain IELTS score in order to be accepted into the program. Sometimes you're not given initial acceptance because tutors want you to do another grammar task before accepting you. They want you to dive a little bit deeper into grammar. But that's why I say take your time with that pre-interview task. Really, look into the answers for those questions. Be confident in those answers. Google's your friend with filling out that application. We also provide resources for you at the top of that pre-interview task. They are available through the internet in PDF form. I recommend you use them. Don't try to do it without them. I highly recommend referencing them. I reference them. I have a master's in foreign language education. I referenced them. Okay, so I filled out the application as well in order to get accepted into the program. So, yeah.
Just to clarify, supposing that you get accepted into the program, that doesn't automatically guarantee your spot into the program itself. You have to first, if not pay the entire tuition prior, or pay that $300. So,
Yes.
could you speak a little bit about that process of ensuring your spot into the program even after you've been accepted based on the application process?
You can inquire anytime about how full a program is. We are happy to let you know. Well, like right now, for the May course, we have 10 admitted. I believe we have 9 of those paid in full and 2 applications pending for May right now. For June's looking like there's a lot of space right now. We have 2 admitted, 1 paid in full, 1 deposit paid, 1 pending, I think. And then for July, 6 admitted, I believe. So you're welcome to inquire about that at the time of your application. We'd be happy to inform you of how many people have been admitted and what the kind of probability is that they will be, they will be attending. Yeah. Yes.
How many spots are there for each session?
12.
12 spots.
Yeah. No, great question. I think I mentioned 12, but I didn't say that was the cap. So 12 trainees per session. That affords 6 trainees per tutor. And then, which helps with teaching because 3 of you teach a 40-minute lesson every other day, and that makes up the 2 hours. Yeah? All right, guys. Well, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you for coming. If you have any more questions, I have my card right here. You're welcome to take that with you. And I'm happy to answer your questions or even set up an advising appointment if you have more questions for one-on-one later on. All right. And if you have questions now, you can come and ask me now too. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.